I wrote an article for Corner Sports outlining some guys that you may be able to trade for with many of your trading deadlines coming up right now. And the way I look at trading deadlines is it's kind of like Black Friday shopping. You know you're going to go out and spend money on things that you may have had your eye on, but you're only doing it on Black Friday because you see that there's a discount there. Maybe you needed an extra TV for your house, as we see that Cougs does.
It was one guitar swing.
It happens. People drink and break things. It's fine.
This has to be a normal thing.
So it's kind of like that where you don't really need it at the moment, but as soon as you see it's on sale, boom, go get it. And these are the type of guys where when you see their price drop, these are guys that you can spend on giving some pieces from your current roster to put yourself in a better situation for the fantasy playoffs. And right now, as we're staring week 11 in the face,
buy it low, girl.
We need to be planning for the fantasy football playoffs. And I outlined some guys in this article on thecornersports.com. And I'm going to lead it off with the quarterback of the Baltimore Ravens, a guy who I never, ever thought would make this list.
Crazy, right?
As a buy low guy.
Ugh.
Coming into week 10 of the NFL season, Lamar Jackson was QB 11 on the season. He's a guy that can be had.
I would call you a liar if in week 1 you told me that by week 11 Lamar Jackson was going to be coming into that week as QB 11. I'd call you a liar. I'd say no way he's top 3. He's got to be top 3 no matter what. I'm not saying he would have been number 1. We all said that. But I never would have guessed 11.
He was stapled in as everybody's preseason QB2. Especially in redraft.
What if I told you?
What if I told you
that Lamar wouldn't be top 10 for a quarterback?
So yeah, this isn't a solid buy low, and I am a person that would love to buy him low right now. So Christian, please, let's get some instructions on how to do that, please.
If I'm looking at buying Lamar Jackson from a frustrated owner, maybe they're sitting at 4-6 going into the remainder of the season, and their playoff chances are hinging on them making good moves for the home stretch here. I would deal a guy who has more points and who has been more productive so far, maybe a Josh Allen, a guy like that who is viewed right now as one of the top 5 or 6 quarterbacks in fantasy football. If you deal Josh Allen and a bench piece, maybe you notice that their handcuff is on your bench. If you can deal that 2-for-1, Josh Allen and a piece for Lamar Jackson, it's going to pay off in the fantasy playoffs if your roster makes it there, because if you look at the home stretch that the Ravens have, and we've mentioned it before, they close their season with the Cowboys, the Browns, the Jaguars, the Giants, and the Bengals.
Well, they don't have the easiest schedule in the league for nothing.
And the easiest part of that schedule is coming up when fantasy owners need it the most. He wasn't that impressive in a rainy game against New England that they lost. He hasn't been impressive against Houston, who he should have lit up. Against Kansas City, who we were expecting a high-scoring affair. He only scored 13 fantasy points against the Cincinnati Bengals.
Now I have to play devil's advocate here. Has Lamar Jackson been figured out? And is that why we can expect other teams to have Lamar figured out? In my opinion, the Patriots defense is not that great this year. I think we can all agree with that, right? They had him figured out. We saw, I call it the blueprint game with Kansas City, how they had him figured out. I mean, he doesn't look like the same Lamar Jackson, and we know not to worry about his passing, but when he can't run, is Lamar Jackson figured out?
I think it's a reasonable point to bring up, but we could spend an entire podcast trying to dissect that. So at this point in the time, I'll give Lamar objectively the benefit of the doubt and look at his upcoming schedule and think that the value is still there for him.
I think that he hasn't been necessarily figured out, but if you look at his game logs, I think that in a sense, the Ravens coaching staff has been protecting him for the first half of this season, because if you look at the first half of the year, he only tallied double-digit carries once in the first 6 weeks before their bye week. Since then, he's totaled double-digit carries in each of their last 3 weeks. Steelers, Colts, and Patriots, he had more than 10 carries. So now that he's starting to carry the ball more, we've already said how we don't trust Lamar Jackson's arm. He's never shown us that he can be a high yardage passer in this league. He's always been just an effective red zone passer where he will get you 180 yards and 3 touchdowns and do the rest of his damage on the ground. Now that we're seeing him have more opportunity to do that damage on the ground, I think that the rushing touchdowns are coming. I think that there's a couple of 100-yard games on his upcoming schedule. I don't know which weeks they are, but I think they're coming based on the talent of the defenses going against him the remainder of the season. So because of that, I would trade a higher ranked quarterback and a lower end bench piece for Lamar Jackson right now if you notice that their owner is struggling.